I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
I'm Angela Preston.
We need to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is What's Next, a dedicated hour to have important conversations about the issues facing the marginalized and underrepresented communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We're going to have some real healing. We've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truth.
What's Next continues our mission to discuss race,
Equity,
And the common concerns of Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
Welcome to What's Next. Our guest this morning, Melissa Archer. Melissa is the Chief Operating Officer of Buffalo Urban League, but we have a lot to talk about with Melissa and her extensive background. Melissa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
It's a pleasure. What brought you to our attention is that you were one of the Buffalo Black Achievers for 2023. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was shocked and very humbled, and especially when we had the actual event, and I'm looking at the bios of all of my co-winners, if you will, and I was like, I'm in the same league as these people. It's, oh my goodness. So I made a lot of friends, a lot of connections, partnerships, collaborations. It was a lot of card swapping that night. It was a lot of fun. The event was really a lot of fun, and it was great to be amongst, all of that talent and passion and hard work.
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe explore that just a little bit. Like you said, talent and passion, those are the two words you used. So you saw that among these people. There must have been a great energy in the air.
Oh, it was electric.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure walking down the red carpet and then being interviewed probably had something to do with that. And being in the VIP section, but it was really great to see, fellow community across all sectors, but fellow community members that have been recognized for the hard work that they've been doing, and they're not looking for the recognition, but to be recognized, it just made you feel like extra special and really. Really push that, that drive to continue, to do the work, because obviously this work is so important no matter what the work is. And to continue with that with more, additional passion,
right.
I got to get this done. And so that was probably really exciting to, just to be amongst all those other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, but just in a different manner.
Right. Did anybody catch you, not catch you off guard necessarily, but just the idea that, wow, you do that, you do this. Were there those types of people that jump out into your mind?
There was a couple that, I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing.
Right.
I didn't even know this was a service or something that was offered. And then definitely make sure I got their contact information so we can explore and see how it can enhance our, service provision over at the Urban League. So I was just like, oh, let me just see. I'm always looking. What I thought was really a nice touch was they had sign language interpreters there.
Ah.
And at first I thought someone was just being very animated and talking, because I was like, sometimes I talk with my hands. But I was like, that was very, very thoughtful.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. So I was like, this is a nice event all around. The food was great. The program was great. Everything was wonderful. Yeah. And
what was it like when they notified you? Hey, you're one of the achievers this year.
I thought they sent it to the wrong person. At first I was like, what is this? And I'm like, why? What have I done? It's just been so busy. Like, do I really qualify for this? And so that's what went through my mind. And then I went to, my team at the Buffalo Urban League was just like, oh my goodness, look at this. This is amazing. And was a little shy at first about it, but very excited and very honored and humbled to even be in that space.
And I definitely want to talk about your work at the Buffalo Urban League, but I want to talk about your journey a little bit, because it's a fascinating journey to this point. Because I would like to think that if someone said I was the chief operating officer of anything, probably one of the first things, you must come from a business background, right? Right? Am I right around? Right. But your background isn't. Well, first, mental health is a big part of who you are,
yes.
But you started off as an RN.
Yes, started off as an RN, as a registered nurse, and then joined the military. I was in the Army National Guard, and was a nurse for a little bit. I like to say I'm 21, and I've been a nurse for a few years. So, but I was a nurse for a few years, and just started seeing how can we service patients a little bit better than just patching up, the physical self. How can we make sure social, emotionally, we're able to, provide more to them. So maybe they're not coming to the ER so frequently, or maybe, they have more empowerment and ownership and accountability for their own health care. And just seeing the struggles, and it's not just the patients though. I started seeing my coworkers.
Really?
And I was like, we have to do something a little bit different. And I said, how can I be part of the solution and not the problem? So initially I was going to go to medical school, and congrats to all doctors. I have all the respect, but 8 years is a long time, 4 years of med school and then 4 years of residency. And I already was a registered nurse. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know we had two amazing programs here in Buffalo, one at Duville and one at UB for, a psychiatric nurse practitioner program. So went to Duville and was very excited. And I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? But learned so much and realized I was like, I am in the space I was supposed to be in. And so my thoughts are, how can I help people find the best versions of themselves, whatever that may be, and help them, have a little bit more control and empowerment and acknowledgement of their best self. And because sometimes it's not enough just to give somebody the tools. You have to teach them how to use it.
Right.
And then you have to provide that support just in case those tools break down. So I'm like, I just want to be in that space to help as much as I can and however the greatest capacity that I could. So that's why I went back to school. And when you're grown, going back to school is very different than when you're 19 and 20,
Yes,
21
it is.
years old. So, that was a bit of a challenge. And then my last semester, I was called upon with the Urban League to help run this program called New York Project Hope. And initially was just I'll be a part-time crisis counselor. And I did help with like getting resumes and just people that I knew in the community that I knew would be a great fit for certain positions. And then they came back and said, no, we want you to run the program. I was like, I'm in school. The last semester, I got to finish. There's a lot of time and energy, tears, sweat, and money put into this program. I have to finish it. But I jumped in. They worked with my schedule and haven't looked back. And I just have, I'm very... believe in God and very faith-based. And I do believe that, if we just sit still and be quiet at times, God will tell you the path you're supposed to go on and where you're supposed to be. And, for me to go pull up and go back to school and do all these different things, something was pushing me and I didn't quite know what, but I knew something was. And I trusted that voice. And the Urban League was just part of that. And the work that we did with New Year Project Hope was just something that was just out of this world. Because we were responding, and what the program was, it was a FEMA-funded program to provide emotional support, helpline, resources, coping strategies for this particular one, for New York residents that have experienced, a mental health fallout because of COVID, and who didn't.
Right.
Isolation and the loss,
Right.
whether it was the loss of a job, a loved one, whatever, and so many other things. And so, our team provided that. The Buffalo Urban League team, we provided that. It was like a team of 21 folks that were trained by Office of Mental Health and SAMHSA, and they were paraprofessionals. Some were board certified or social workers, but these are community members, trusted community members that people know that were heavily trained to be crisis counselors, and we responded. And I believe we shouldn't tell ourselves how well we're doing. You let other people evaluate and, basically do a performance evaluation of how you're doing. And the response we got from the community of the services we were providing was absolutely just mind-boggling. It was amazing. And we did so much, and so that, we were in the midst of that with COVID, and then we had some other tragic events that happened that we responded to, first responders. And, it just continued on until FEMA decided or has declared that COVID was no longer in this crisis mode as of December of last year. So the New York Project Hope program was ended. But we were told that it was the first FEMA program to be continued in the post-crisis phase.
Wow.
So Office of Mental Health picked it up, and now it's called Buffalo Hope. And they're still doing the same thing, providing emotional support, helpline, resources. They're in schools with seniors doing mental health wellness events. It's so much, and I'm just so honored when we worked together, we were a team. We supported each other. We very creative, and it's just to be a part of something like this is just like a dream come true. So to me, it's really my ministry.
We're talking with Melissa Archer this morning. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Buffalo Urban League, and she, as she just outlined for us, quite the experience for a young individual to talk about here. I want to jump back because you intrigued me about a couple of things about your RN experience.
Okay. Yes.
And one is what you saw, like you said, in your colleagues, and how that process, that grind, whatever you want to call it, of having to deal with multiple patients who are in a variety of different levels of need, how it could wear on them. Can you talk about that a little bit, what you saw?
Oh, yes. So surprisingly, my thesis for when I got my master's in the Psych and P was compassion, fatigue, and burnout. And I remember my chair, she said, you didn't realize when you started this process that this thesis topic would be so pertinent. And I just saw people, especially during COVID, the fallout from just people just being exhausted, tired, sometimes understaffed, sometimes feeling underappreciated, and they were just tired. And so, things come out, that people have to find a way to cope. And it was getting very difficult because a lot of us nurses and anybody in healthcare, nurses, you're the social worker. You're you're doing a lot of different things. But how do you do that when, you're struggling to even just get out of bed? And so when I saw this, and it would affect, their work performance, it would affect patient outcomes, it would affect so many different things. It's like we have to do something a little bit different. So that's why I am a staunch supporter for staff and pouring.
So when you've
into your
heard like
staff.
these, different nurses and some of their unions, not necessarily getting into a union thing here, but when they were saying we need staffing levels, you understood that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been in spaces where it's like you're the one, you're the nurse and you may have 12 patients and they're really acute, they're really sick. And you're like, oh, okay. And you do the best you can because you're in it and you want to provide the best that you can. But, there's also a human being at the end of that, though. At the end of that shift that has to go home and deal with their families and, how physically draining, yes, it's always going to be, but the mental and emotional toll after a while, we really have to look at that and evaluate that so we can make sure we're pouring into our staff, no matter what sector you're working in. You're pouring into your staff so they can really pour into, into the, I don't know if it's the patients, the clients, or the product that you're trying to create that's going to be utilized by a human being. So, in business terms, what is the return on investment?
Right. Very
So
good.
you invest and you get great dividends on the end of it. So, it's just, it's really has pushed me to really look at how you engage your employees. And, at the Urban League, we just did an engagement survey, and we're going through a strategic planning and a lot of focus on how can we enhance our employees' experience and trying to be there for them so they can be the best versions of themselves so that they can provide that to the community, because you can't give from an empty cup. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is so true.
Sure. And you're maybe a little distant from the RN life now after all of your experience, but I'm sure you probably still have old friends and colleagues that are still involved. Is it getting better, do you think?
I think it's probably about the same because I think a lot of folks have left healthcare because of COVID. Some people have. There's some people go for different careers. Like I did, left RN to become a nurse practitioner, or people have retired. So it's a rich opportunity for, other people to come in and study and become, become an RN, become an LPN, become a CNA, respiratory therapist, whatever the case may be, just, getting in there. But it seems like, I haven't really talked to too many, but I haven't heard anything either way. So.
Okay. And the other part of that equation, that experience that you had that struck me, my parents were going through their later lives just a few years ago and spent a lot of time in emergency rooms and saw how that works and how difficult that scene is. And you were talking about how trying to give people some tools, the patients tools that are coming in there and maybe using the emergency room because they have nowhere else to go. Share with us just a little bit what you saw from these individuals, because like I said, I saw some sad, lonely people from my own my little distance and my little curtain there with my mother or father. Right. What did you see?
Well, sometimes you see folks that are that, like you said, they're sad, lonely, or they're reaching out, or they had coming in for anxiety. Is it really because of anxiety, or there's something else going on and it's not being treated or not being addressed, or they are lonely, or it's so individualized and so something where you really have to assess the patient, see what's going on, and then try to build some wraparound services around them. And if that's their only touch point, because I know sometimes people do use the ER as their primary care, or they come in as just a function of having some symptoms. If that's a touch point, that would be a great place to just provide whatever tools you can, whatever touch point you can have with them. Provide whatever tools you can to them, and that I know it's a very defined time. Sure. And you're there for a very specific reason, but I know sometimes the ERs are packed, and
right.
It's just, I think that's just the life of healthcare right now.
Right. Stay with us. There's more to come. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Buffalo is home to many historical treasures, including architectural gems.
Central Terminal affected everybody. Everybody from the common man to the movie star walked this concourse.
Beloved community establishments.
They might get a glimpse to see Lena Horne. They might see Dizzy or Miles Davis, Charlie Parker.
And homes for local sports teams.
When we talk about an institution, Memorial Auditorium was an institution.
The WNED PBS original production, Remembering Western New York, explore some of these iconic structures and their connection to people who live in the region.
There was a time when Buffalo's Main Street was the focus of holiday shopping in Western New York.
Watch Remembering Western New York now on YouTube.
Hey, is this thing on?
Test, 1, 2.
Sounds great. Let's go.
The podcast world is overflowing with more than 750,000 podcasts to choose from.
But for great local podcasts, you can now go to one place, the new Amplify BTPM Pods app. Here you can discover content produced in Western New York and Southern Ontario, our own backyard.
With a wide variety of genres to choose from, there is something for everyone.
Listen to the best independently produced podcasts in the region, anywhere, anytime.
Download the free Amplify BTPM Pods app wherever you get your apps and begin exploring your local podcast community now.
Check out the Our Town series produced by WNED PBS, but captured by community members on the Buffalo Toronto Public Media YouTube channel.
Ellicottville is a town of variety, not only in what they have to offer, but the people.
The Burlington community is becoming increasingly multicultural, and the library is reflecting that.
Parks and playgrounds have been what makes the town of Tonawanda a great place to grow up.
The series began in 2003, but it's making its debut on YouTube now. Although some of the businesses and people may have changed over the years, the spirit of these wonderful towns remain the same.
We just didn't realize what we had in our own backyard.
We need the next generation to protect it and carry on.
Learn about Jamestown, Burlington, Welland, East Aurora, and more than a dozen other beautiful communities in our region by watching the Our Town series now on YouTube.
I would live there.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
Melissa Archer is our guest this morning on What's Next. Melissa is the Chief Operating Officer at the Buffalo Urban League, and she was also honored recently as well as one of the Buffalo Black Achievers for 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Your work in mental health, though, is a fascinating journey as well. Like you said, running the project at the Buffalo Urban League and reaching out. That quite an endeavor. You said, what, 21 people were working for you?
We were at a team of it was 21 of us total. So 20, yeah.
Right.
All still is, as a program of the Buffalo Urban League, but, and have that Urban League family as a totality, all the resources, because, they have housing, they have all these different departments in the Urban League. But that particular program, it was about 20 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
21 of us.
Yeah. So let's talk about the different elements of that, though. What the outreach, where all of this work and this service went to. Wow.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah, please. Let her rip.
There wasn't a place we didn't go.
Really?
And I just did a presentation on this at the National Urban League Conference yesterday at the William.
So it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah. So we took 2 weeks and we brainstormed who, what, when, where. Because this was a program that in Erie County no one knew anything about. And so you had to, once I did all my training and then, started hiring, I realized, okay, so we have to let the community know that this is here. And it was a free, confidential, anonymous program. So, and because sometimes people would ask, well, how much is this going to cost? Or,
sure.
They didn't feel comfortable giving their name. We don't need any of that. You're a human being that's breathing, you need help. That was it. So we were in barbershops, we were in libraries, schools, churches. There was no one we did not try to contact or did contact. And then we even took it up a notch to try to make sure that we were reaching different populations. So we had 7 different languages represented from 7 different cultures, religion, young and old, LGBTQ, I tried to make it as diverse and expansive as possible, and so that we can reach as many people as we could, not just one particular population. And it worked. We were, if somebody wanted to speak to somebody, say they called the helpline, and they wanted to talk to somebody from the LGBTQ community, we had that. Because people want people they feel comfortable with, they feel that will understand their plight and understand how they are feeling and what they're going through. So if somebody wanted to speak to someone that spoke Mandarin Chinese or Bengali, we had that. And so we were very proud of that. And I think that's what kind of made us stand out, because we didn't have to call, and there's nothing wrong with it, but we didn't have to call the international helpline. We pretty much had that in-house, and we still do. And just being able to service, we did we were in the streets, we did canvassing.
Really? Where'd you go on the street? Where'd you go?
Oh, we would just be in the streets. Just go in the
somewhere in the city, somewhere in the
everywhere
suburbs.
in the city.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
everywhere in the city.
Yeah, we were, and the suburbs. We were going to suburbs as well. But we started out because our main site was at 1021 Broadway, so at the Jericho Building. So we started there and we branched out. And like I said, I would love going into a Tops, whether it was on Harlem or on Niagara Street, and see our flyers there, because that meant the staff were there talking, and we knew. We did a lot of tablings. We did a lot of presentations to let people know who we were, what we were doing, and the services we were providing. That would usually lead to, can you come and do a group session on self-care or resilience with our staff or with our children or with my family or with me? So we did a lot of that, and did a lot of after-school programming. In the summer program, I remember one summer we were engaging 300 kids a week for 7 weeks. And really diving deep, and we used a program called the 7 C's of Resilience. And it was an evidence-based program from the American Pediatric Association. And they taught, and so there was you talk about what that word meant, the 7 C's. So the first C maybe is confidence. what does confidence mean? And you're talking to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. What you adapt it according to the age, and you could even use it with older, with seniors or but you just adapt the language, adapt the programming around that. So you go through what the definition means. What does it mean to you? When were the instances where you felt confident and things like, or when you didn't feel confident? And then you would pair that with an activity to kind of seal it in and then just wrap it up again. And I mean, like, there's one group that we worked with, they're called Just for Kids.
Okay.
And they're an after school program, and they were in schools in like Grand Island, Amherst, I mean everywhere. And I mean, they loved the work that we did so much. They just like, you don't even realize the impact that you've had on, like, some of the kids were, probably had some challenging behaviors, and we came in and were able to help smooth that out and give the teachers tools, or the after school facilitators or directors some tools on how to kind of like, this is how you navigate it.
Wow.
In a very organic, and fun way, because kids have to play, they have to move around. That's how you kind of get through them. So, just there was nowhere we did not go,
right?
Unless we were told, explicitly no, and no one that we would not try to reach. And like I said, we took the 2 weeks in the beginning and just brainstormed. So you got all those minds working together, and everyone that was chosen specifically from, you knew they were bringing this to the table, because maybe they worked at, Family Health Center, or maybe they worked at another organization that was similar to what we were doing there. So they brought all that experience and knowledge and to the table, and we just utilize all that.
When the work with kids is interesting, and I'm wondering about your perspective now. Is it harder for kids now when it comes to mental health? Are there more challenges now? Is it different than, say, I mean, I don't want to take you back to when I was a kid. That's far too long ago, but as you see things, I mean, is it different, harder for kids now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's always been challenging. I think where things are just there's much more awareness, which I'm happy about. There's much more awareness. I know social media has has probably helped with that, and the fact that there's so much more awareness and talk around mental health. It's much more acceptable. It's not there's still stigma around it, but I feel like we're talking about it more, and that's one step towards, decreasing, if not getting rid of the stigma, hopefully one day. But I do think children are things that we were seeing in adults, now we're seeing in kids. And it probably was always there on some level. It's just, like I said, there's much more awareness to it. And so now, and children are getting the help that they're needing, right? And not just the children, but the families too, because if the child is at a therapist or getting medication, but they're with a therapist like 1 hour out of a week, there's 168 hours in a week.
Right.
So the other 167 hours are primarily at school and home. They need supports there as well. So you have to support the adults that are supporting the children that are going through whatever they're going through. And so with that, I do see that children are, we're seeing it. You see it in the news. There's a lot more suicides. There's a lot of things going on right now. And but I do like that there's efforts. Our governor has made a definite dedication to, putting some funds, not just talk, but funds behind mental health. And so I think that's really going to move the needle more than it has before. So, and especially around, child and adolescent psych, there's been a lot of, I think I went to one of her forums around it was a youth mental health forum in New York City. And I was just so excited about, all the different initiatives and things that are going to be coming down the pike. And the kids need it. And I think it's better to deal when you see that children are having symptoms or something is going on, it's good to try to tackle it earlier than later. So, if somebody is seeing something, say something. And, and there's no shame, there's no stigma. Whoever says that, I don't know what their agenda is or why, but that's not important. Because if your child has a toothache, or they have a really bad and pink eye or something, we're gonna take them to the doctor.
Right.
We're gonna take them to the dentist. So this is no different.
Any thoughts for parents or other guardians to what maybe they could look for, or is it just a matter of, well, you know your child, and when the child is acting a little outside themselves, that's what we're looking for? What would you suggest?
I feel everybody should have a counselor because just like everybody has a primary doctor or should have a primary doctor, just a way to check in. But if that's not, if that's not there, just maybe taking a mental health first aid class for youth. They have them for youth, adults, and psychological first aid, just to give you the tools. But if that's not an option, there's so many credible things that are online, because I know we all have our smartphone.
Right.
So, I would suggest go to WebMD, or go somewhere, a credible site, World Health Organization or CDC, and look up, if you're seeing that your child is, maybe a little irritated. And sometimes kids can't tell you what they don't have the word or the verbiage right. to say, I'm depressed. So you know your child, you know your child's baseline. So if you're seeing that they're sleeping too much or sleeping too little, or they're eating too much, eating too little, and it's different from their norm, or they're irritated or get angry easier, or all of a sudden they're having a lot of stomach aches, headaches. With kids, it's what we call psychosomatic. So things could be happening mentally, emotionally, and it comes out in their body. So I got these headaches. I'm tired all the time. I got stomach aches. Just a conversation. It starts with a conversation with your child, and then talk to your doctor, talk to their pediatrician, and then go from there. But loop in. The doctors or the pediatrician, or the nurse practitioners and PAs are helping out in those areas as well. Now,
are they well trained in that area? Because again, the mental health focus is relatively new, right?
I don't know if it's relatively new,
or maybe just the level of awareness.
I think the level of awareness is probably in the past 5 to 10 years. Maybe there's been more awareness around mental health. I do think, especially after the things that have been occurring in our community in the past 2-3 years, people are really seeing that, wow, this mentally, I'm struggling.
Right.
And even if it's just talk therapy, or if it's just emotional support, something we need to do something. But you have to talk to a licensed professional to try to help you navigate. Where do you need medication? Do you need psychotherapy, or do you need both? A combination of both. And sometimes it could be a situational thing where maybe somebody broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and they're really upset and depressed, but you won't find that out to know exactly unless you chat with a licensed professional, because they can do an assessment, do an evaluation, and then, kind of help you navigate which way to go for yourself or for your children, because like I said, I think everybody should have a counselor, and some people don't like the term counselor. So maybe just have, I always say, let's just have a chat.
Sure.
To make people feel comfortable, so they don't, because words are very important, and how do you utilize them is even more important. So if they want to hear the word, let's have a pencil, okay, then we'll say pencil. That's what's going to make it work. But, just talk to somebody and get the help that's needed,
Thanks for joining us today. This is What's Next on WBFO. More to come right after this.
This is the WBFO History Bite, bringing you a peek into significant historical events for the week of October 30th through November 5th. I'm your host, Josh Deckert. On October 31st, 1968, Buffalo's own WKBW broadcast a remake of the War of the Worlds radio drama for Halloween. On November 1st, 1941, the Bell Aircraft Corporation, located in Buffalo, began development on new aviation technology, the helicopter. On November 3rd, 1997, the Buffalo Niagara International Airport opened. The airport now manages over 100 flights daily. And on November 5th, 1993, Nirvana performed at the University at Buffalo. The band played at the Alumni Arena. You've been listening to the WBFO History Bite. Discover more stories about Western New York's past on the Buffalo History Museum's website. You can learn more at buffalohistory.org. For WBFO, I'm Josh Deckert.
know that WNED PBS is always working on great new local shows for you to watch? Documentaries like Kleinhand's Gift to Buffalo, which tells the story of Buffalo's music hall.
The hall is very intimate, and that intimacy makes everyone who comes in here feel a part of our family.
Fun and educational series like Compact Science.
Believe it or not, peppers are technically fruits.
And Shakespeare's greatest hits, featuring some of his best-known soliloquies and monologues.
We are such stuff as dreams are made of.
You can watch them all on our website at wned.org/local shows. While you're there, check out the show pages and mini websites for additional content such as bonus features, photo galleries, and lesson plans. Find it all at wned.org/local shows.
Birds, whether common or rare, delight me. That's what our new Now We're Birding and Enjoying Nature Club is all about. Oh yes, and the best is being with people who are also interested in wildflowers, animals, and of course birds. Come along with us, won't you, Peter Hall and me, Stratton Rawson, as we lead monthly excursions to Tift or Rhinestone Woods Nature Preserves. To sign up, go to wned.org/birding.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
What's next? We're talking with Melissa Archer. Melissa, you were talking about some of the community events or tragedies that we've gone through that you're very sensitive to because of your work and with the Buffalo Urban League. But the one I haven't had a lot of conversation or heard a lot about was the Christmas blizzard. We lost 47 people died during that blizzard, so it was a big event in that regard. But how is that? How is that showing up? What are we seeing? What are we hearing from people, and how that is impacting them?
Oh, again, the people lost a lot. People, like I said,
Sure.
lives were lost. 47 lives were lost. People had damage to their homes. They had damage to their cars. Damage for, some people may have lost their jobs because they couldn't get to work. There's just been a lot of loss and a lot of trauma behind, especially when you have so many tragedies that occurred, and we did,
Right.
quite a few.
The COVID
back to back.
May 14th. Yeah.
A beloved pediatrician.
my.
There was just a lot of different things that occurred, and some that may not even have made the news, like COVID or something else. But a lot of different things that occurred, and then for this to happen. And so I know, Buffalo, it was Buffalo Hope at the time? Yeah, it was Buffalo Hope. But the Urban League itself responded we collaborated with a group and went door to door. Went door to door.
After the blizzard.
Well, when they opened up the streets, of course. When they opened up the streets.
Wasn't easy getting around.
Yeah, they opened up, lifted the travel ban. We went door to door. So there were some individuals that were mowing, and that were that were shoveling the snow. We were doing wellness checks, making sure people were alive, and making sure, what do you need? How can I help you? How are you feeling right now? So the Buffalo Urban League team was part of that. And some people would be like, I ran out of diapers. So we would go back. Our base was at Delavan Grider, go back and report that, and then they would get them some diapers or get them wipes. I mean, it was a very good collaboration. And then another thing that we did was provided a family day for families around just different ways to cope. So I think there was a laughter therapy session. It was all kind of fun stuff that was going on. And then there were tables that set up, community members, community organizations tables that set up to give information just on various topics, mental health, housing, just various things that community members could utilize. And then along with that, then we had it was 11-person panel to talk about the mental health fallout of
the
blizzard. And it was amazing. It really was, because we were able to just impart some information to community members that maybe they didn't have before. And now, I want to see. I'm interested to see, our winter is coming back up.
Yes, it is.
So I'm interested to see. I'm going to be checking with my teams to see, are people experiencing more anxiety because they're wondering, is it going to happen again? And are we prepared? So just having those conversations and maybe helping them navigate that. So, yeah, because we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that. So.
Absolutely. And I guess it goes without saying, like we talked about the people that died, but just the idea that what a sense of, horror is probably too strong a word maybe, but that blizzard was like for some people. Is that what we're hearing? That just, there was just this, it's cold, you can't see out in front of your house.
Yeah.
What's going on next? Was that the root of a lot of this?
Yeah, and not being able to have that control. I know for me, we couldn't even get out the house. The snow was like halfway to 3/4 up. You couldn't get out the house. It was a concern of if somebody had a medical emergency, how would that look? How would that play out? And I think I even tried to shovel for a little bit. I think it was like that Friday, and the wind it whipped us up, and then you couldn't see anything. And I was like, oh, we have to go in the house, because if a tree branch was in that cloud, we wouldn't see it. And then next thing you know, we would be, probably in some trouble. So I think people just wrapping themselves around that, because Buffalo, we are used to snow.
Sure.
And but this was different. This was even worse than the blizzard of 77. I was told, because I guess in 77 we didn't have the wind, which did the snow drifts and all of that. So, so I think there's people are just dealing with and the lack of control and the loss again, and just the trauma of it all. That's what people are probably dealing with. Yeah.
Moving on just a little bit, you're also involved in trying to set up I guess I'll use the term clinic, for lack of a better term. I may not be the exact right word. Right on Genesee Street in Hickory.
Genesee and Hickory, yes. It was
the location. Is that strategic? Is that
360 Genesee?
Yeah.
Well, my aunt is a pioneer. I call her my mama, but she is a pioneer. She's been a psychiatrist for many years, and she started a program called the Senses Foundation. And it was like a wraparound program for at-risk youth, and taught them everything from, and Senses is an acronym, from social skills, education, nutrition, it was spirituality when it wasn't in the schools, because you can't put that in the schools, but entrepreneurship, and then social responsibility.
Okay.
And really, a really engaging program, really successful program. And but then COVID happened, so kind of you table a lot of things. But with all of our families, healthcare, careers, it was like, oh, we can do something different with that. So they started the process about 2 years ago, and it's called the Senses Medical Wellness Center.
Oh, okay.
Right at 360 Genesee, and so they started it, and she's a psychiatrist, so. And I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and initially I just graduated in 2021. So initially, for the first 3,000 hours for a nurse practitioner, you have to have I think it's called a collaborating physician. So it's like, oh, that works well. That we kind of let's try it and see what happens. So. So they did it, ran forward with it, and initially it'll be like a mental health focus, but we want to have mental and physical health, because sometimes mental health patients that might be their only contact. So if they can get a physical, get their immunizations at the same time they're coming to get their counseling, whether it's on their own or court mandated, whatever, that might be a good touch point that we can help people that maybe wouldn't get helped.
Yeah, what about the location? Is it intentional in the sense that we're talking about an underserved area?
Absolutely. So it's Genesee and Hickory, and when I think about where it's at, thank God it's on a bus line, so you can get off the bus. It's right there, and it is in an underserved area. And I think there's maybe something else over there in mental health, but hopefully, they're trying to make it as a comprehensive, center for people to come and expand it however the community sees fit, responding to the community and what they need. And this is what's needed right now. And then, wherever things go, they want financial literacy. If they, whatever the case may be, they'll try to provide that. And so, but yes, it was definitely strategically placed.
It's interesting to hear you talking. You had, because on one side you've had this experience where you've been hands-on, RN, National Guard. I mean, all this, but yet you seem to also have this big picture look at things as well with your work at the Buffalo Urban League. The census clinic hasn't opened yet, hasn't started yet. So we don't know, like you said, what the community is going to need and where it's going to take us. But do you have the sense that those types of targeted locations and are going to be a key to maybe, rejuvenating some of these neighborhoods that really could use a boost?
Yes, be investing in them. Yes.
Yeah.
And showing them that somebody does care. Somebody from the community is here that grew up in this community and know what it is coming back to kind of like give you that hands up, and hopefully you can be in this space yourself to do the same in the future. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big picture, I think it's because I know that I've been blessed. And I always tell people we're a banana slip away from being the people we serve. I don't care how much money you have, how many degrees you have. We are all a banana slip from being the people that we serve. So we really need to stay humble in that space, and try to do the best we can with the gifts that God gave us, so that we can help the next person. Because how many cars can you buy? How many, it's like at some point for me, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I have to have more purpose. And I love the thought of helping someone look in the mirror or look at what life or the devil or whatever that's keeping them from their greatness and say, you're not going to win. Because I am a fighter. So I love helping them. Like if it means helping you, whether it's getting the mental health or getting your physical health or, helping you get housing or whatever the case may be, so that you can feel good about what you are doing. Because everybody wants to do well. Right. There's no one out here that's like, yeah, I want to be in this circumstance that's not really showing myself in my best light. Everybody wants to do well, but you can only do what you can do. You can only do what you know, and you can't do what you don't know. So we have to give tools. And we have to give tools because somebody gave it to us. We weren't born like that. Somebody gave it to us, whether it was our parents, whether it was our extended family, whether it was communities, whether whomever, but somebody gave it to us and taught us how to utilize those tools and use them effectively and provided supports when those tools didn't work or when we failed to use them the correct way, right? With no blame and shame on anyone. And so I had like this deep sense of I have to give back. I have to, and I'm not a material person. So I was like, God has positioned me perfectly to be the one to be like, yeah, I'm coming in to turn everything upside down because I want people to find the best versions of themselves. I really do. And
just to see you talk the way you're talking, you've seen lots of, I'll use the word success, but people who have fought that fight and overcome things as well. Right. Stories of inspiration. I mean, right? I mean, can you share some? I mean, where you've seen somebody, maybe it's a simple victory or maybe it's been a large victory. Like you said, there's so many different things that happen for people.
It was one, I mean, I don't want to share somebody's story that, without their permission, but have helped people that really were down and out and like were ready to count themselves out. And not only, I'm thinking of one person in particular, not only help them, I would always say everybody's not team so-and-so, everybody's not for you. So you got to learn to hold things close to the vest. Because sometimes when you're trying to get yourself out of that bucket, sometimes the people closest to you, they're so used to you being in there, they don't want you to go. So, helping her kind of navigate that and keep pushing. And I'm like, and sometimes it will be 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, but I'm like, that's okay because tomorrow's a new day. But, we got to keep pushing and understanding that, you have the power and that's what it is. People have to feel empowered and understand that only some circumstances you might not be able to control. Like I can't control if a car smashes into my car, God forbid. But for the most part, I can control. People can only do to me what I allow. And you have to know who you are and be in a certain headspace. And if you can't, that's why I love programs like AANA. Reach out to somebody in your what we call eco map or in your circle or they're your people, as they say. That is positive. It's going to help support you, but they're going to hold you accountable. They're not going to just be a yes person.
Right.
They're going to hold you accountable, but they're doing it in such a loving, dignified way. They don't leave you excoriated afterwards. So that is truly and she's amazing. This particular person, she's absolutely amazing. She's done such.
Maybe
she
can come on and meet with us someday if she
oh,
want to share her
you
story.
Love her.
Really?
I'll ask her. I'll text her.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, and like I said, we can all be the people that we serve. So that's what keeps me humble, and keeps me level-headed to. It helps me push even harder for someone, until they say, listen, I'm done. I don't want you helping me anymore. And then I still might come back a month later.
I have a feeling, you're maybe not going away too easily.
Yeah, come back a month later and go, hey, how's it going? And nothing to even talk about that, just being present and being there for them. But I do truly believe to do this type of work is a lot. So, first responders, people that are in the community doing the work, they've got to do self-care. I'm a serious proponent of self-care. Or people, now it's, sometimes you hear self-compassion or compassion or self-consideration. But just doing something for yourself every single day just for you.
How about for you? You're doing so many different things. What about your self-care? Now
my
you've got me.
self-care-
I'm it's maybe a little too personal, but
No, my self-care, everybody knows. I usually eat some ice cream and watch the Golden Girls because I love the Golden Girls. I really do.
It's
Dorothy's
obviously
mom.
working. Maybe we got the formula here.
Oh
huh?
my God, they're so wild. Just vegging, and doing nothing. Sometimes doing nothing is good because I am always going 100 miles an hour, and the former executive vice president of the Urban League, Ms. Grace Tate, she used to tell me, she said, "You're like a duck." And I was like, "Oh my God, what does that mean?" She's like, "You seem all calm and serene, but your feet are always going."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, that's good." Because, you don't want to see the frazzled and everything on my face and everything. I can keep it, things close to the vest and kind of quiet. But, there's so much work to be done. And for me, I feel like I'm playing catch up because I'm like, oh, I wish I discovered this 10 years ago. But, this is so much work to be done and such a dent to be made so that, like I said, people can find the best versions of themselves and we can turn things around. I know it's not going to happen in a day. I'm not going to do it alone. As they say, you can go alone and you'll get far, but if you go together, you can go alone, you can go fast, but if you go together, you go far. And so that's why, not just myself, but at the league, we truly believe in that collaboration and coalition because everybody can't do everything. So you got to have, everybody's got to do their part and do their piece and do it together and in a collaborative effort where we all have that one mission. And that's where I am, not just on a professional level, but even personal level. It's surprising to me when I hear people say, "Oh my God, you helped me do this," or "You helped my daughter get into nursing school," and I'm just like, "Oh my God, I don't remember this person. I don't remember what I did." But then when I see the person, I'm like, "Oh," because I'm really bad with names. I'm really good with faces. But it's just you just see a need and you fulfill it, and then really important to pour into the next generation to, so you say, well, what's next? Keep pushing and doing the work, and then pushing into the younger generation so they can keep this going and put that seed, that fire in their belly so that they'll just be as bulldog or savage with it, as we are. Because if not, it just kind of falls. And then, more generations will be just swept under the rug. And we don't want that.
We've talked for about 50 minutes now, and I don't know if I have to necessarily ask you this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
You have hope, don't you? You have hope.
Oh, my gosh. All day long and twice on Sundays. You have to have hope. If not, if you have hopelessness, that's actually one of the symptoms, in psychiatry. If somebody is hopeless or hapless, you have to have hope. You know, as long as we're breathing. So when somebody says, "Oh, how are you doing today?" I'm like, "I woke up today, so I'm doing a lot better than a lot of folks." So I'm happy, and so that's my starting point. And then the rest is going to happen or not happen. But tomorrow's another day, and you know that we can say, "Okay, we did well with this, and we may have, you know, can do better at that." And then we can try that again tomorrow. But you have to have hope. Yeah.
Well, Melissa Archer, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Buffalo Urban League, I really appreciate you coming in and spending time with us on What's Next. And I think anybody who's been listening can understand why you were one of the Buffalo Black Achievers for 2023.
Oh, you're so nice.
Well, the way it's sounding, you might get it for the decade, but I don't know if they have that or not. No. Melissa Archer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having
What's
me.
Next?
Have a good weekend.
Oh, absolutely. This is What's Next on WBFO and WBFO HD1 Buffalo, WOLN Olean, and WUBJ Jamestown, your NPR station.